Hello, hello.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today?
Hello. Good.
Got a couple more joining. Okay, I think we have everybody here. Oh, never mind. Couple more. All right, I want to start with thanking everybody joining the Hormone Happy Hour. I think I see a couple new faces on the call today, so I'm glad to have everybody here. Do we have any new clients here? Feel free to drop something in the chat or introduce yourself if you're willing. We'd love to get to know you. All right. Well, I wanted to, I guess, start with the coaches. I love to check in, kind of see how everything's going from a client standpoint. Um, any big wins from any of the coaching group this week? We don't have to say specific names, but would love to start off with some positivity.
Well, I think I've got some people with some really good wins, which is great, on the detox side of things. So that's always exciting to see, right? Some immediate wins coming in. So,
Yeah, what are you seeing exactly? What would you say some of the emphasis that you're working on recently with clients? What specific areas of detox?
both the liver and the colon, I think less inflammation overall. Um, Definitely improved mood, energies. Just feeling a sense of overall wellness. Like, wow, I feel a little bit more to myself, which is always like a huge statement, right? So, love seeing that. It's always really encouraging and good, huge wins.
I was talking with one of your clients, I think last week, and she had done a liver cleanse and was talking about feeling lighter and just like the mental clarity aspect of doing that. And I'm not as well versed in detox, but from what I hear from a lot of the clients, it seems like a good avenue to start with a lot of people. So very positive. That's great.
Yeah.
We have anything else from any of the other coaches?
I can share. One of my clients actually, you did a review with her a little bit ago, higher arsenic levels,
Yeah.
and just a lot of other things. But we just got off a call. She said her energy levels are up. She started on the zeolite. She's just been eating cleaner and watching all of that. And like, I saw her energy shift completely from what our usual energy levels are on our calls to today. And she's just feeling a lot more hopeful and a lot happier. So I would say like that's a huge win.
Yeah. Is this a client from UK that I'm
Yeah,
talking? That's awesome.
yeah.
It's really interesting kind of what you see globally. So I see a lot of like heavy metals in UK and then Dubai. It seems like those things are a lot more prominent and you
Well,
know,
she did mention that she had like apparently in college she was like they had like she found out she had like mold, like a mold infestation, and she was living there for like 6 months. So, I mean, I could definitely see it. Like, and she said like apparently it was like in the water, in her shoes, her mattress, like just like everywhere. Which is I'm sure has a lot to do with that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the older buildings as well that I see, I just think from like an uh architecture standpoint, a lot of buildings in UK are probably much older than here in US. So I tend to see lots of elevations in mold and arsenic. I think the zeolite's a really cool topic, and we actually haven't spoke on that in some time. That's actually something I picked up from Charlotte. I was living in a house that was pretty moldy. It was an old house, probably like 3 years ago, and I was having really crazy like histamine responses, and being able to use that zeolite for a period of time was quite helpful. The as far as mechanisms, um, I'm not as versed in that. And like Charlotte, if you're open and you kind of understand some of the science of like those binder agents, could you like walk through that for the group? I think that may be helpful. I know we've talked about this in the past, but we have lots of new faces here, so any info you could share would be cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of different binders. I think a lot of mostly everyone's probably heard of charcoal. I think that's pretty common, or clays, which are great. And I think it's important to understand that binders, every type of binder, whether it's a charcoal, a clay, or a carbon-based fulvic acids or zeolites, they all grab different things. They're attracted to different things. So some may be more effective than others. I think the zeolites, I've had the best experience with the zeolites, and they actually give back to your body. They don't steal. They really tend to not steal those minerals that you don't want to leave your body. Um, Sometimes the charcoals can grab everything, and be a little bit more obnoxious in that way, but they're still effective, right? You're grabbing something you don't want in your body, but you may have to supplement with more minerals, depending on the binder. But essentially, for zeolites, because that's what I've used the most, on a microcellular level, it's just like a cage, and it's attracted to positive particles. So your heavy metals, I believe it's positive particles. Maybe I have that backwards, but they're attracted to the opposite of what they are, and they capture it into the cage, and then they basically leave through your stool. But I've seen a lot of great results, even just with bacteria, viral heavy metals with zeolites, and they're super gentle. I've seen maybe 90% of people handle it really well, and there's maybe that 10% that maybe feel anxiety when they take it, just because I don't know why the body processes it differently. My brother's one of them. So I always say start low and slow, away from food, and give it a try. And I really feel like it's one of those things that everyone should have in their cabinet at home, just because
Oh my
we're just
gosh, I
onslaughted
agree.
with so much toxins all the time that it just never hurts to take a few scoops once in a week, even if you're feeling healthy. But if you're not feeling that great, probably want to start incorporating that into your lifestyle just to help your body out a little bit
Yeah.
while working with the liver and the colon, of course.
It's super interesting, and I was curious your response to this. And I'm not advocating for consuming alcohol, but I seen somebody on social media talking about using charcoal or zeolite if they're going to consume alcohol. Do you see that being true? And have you ever had any clients do that? Because I know uh, someone may have a glass of wine here and there, and do you find that beneficial for clients?
Yeah, actually, yes, it is. Everyone could do the test too. There's no harm, no foul. I think you just recover better the next day. And again, I think this is interdependent on the state of one's liver and how they're actually processing it, right? So for someone who's really sensitive to alcohol, they may do better if they drink zeolites after to make sure they feel better the next day. For someone that handles alcohol really well, you may not notice a difference because there are people out there like that. They just don't feel anything when they drink alcohol the next day, and they can drink a lot more than the next person. I'm the very sensitive alcohol person. I feel it. I don't recover well. So the zeolites help me a lot.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. When my daughter was born, I don't drink very often. We had some whiskey, and my parents were having some, and I made everybody take some zeolite before they drink alcohol. And I was like, I don't know. I think it. might help. And I'm very sensitive to alcohol. If I have like, even a glass, my head starts to hurt. Certain alcohols will make me congested, specifically like wheat and beer. I notice like sinuses kind of clog up. So um, I only had one. I didn't have a hangover the next day. So I thought it was, quite interesting. And I see so many products out now that will be
Okay,
like,
tell you what, I need to grab something from HEB anyway. Why don't
seeing something on social media, people doing like a glutathione and then like some sort of charcoal-based product. And I see a lot of that stuff being really popular right now. So if you think there's validity to it, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I'll add to that too. Like if you take TUDCA, if you're someone that's really sensitive or doesn't do well with alcohol, taking TUDCA really helps as well to get your body metabolizing that and getting it out of your system. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of a poison, unless you're getting extremely good wine from Europe and you just like fresh press and it's not coming with sulfites and sulfates. Because technically, a lot of these companies don't have to tell you what they're actually putting in with alcohol. And I think that's what we're fighting now is all the additives. I think that's the same thing with like nicotine and tobacco. Like, is it the nicotine that's causing the problem or all the actual harmful toxic things coming with the cigar or the cigarette that are actually causing this? So it's kind of like, which one is it? On top of excess is too much too. So there's a few factors there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think excess nicotine's a piece of that. I actually like to use nicotine. I find it is like a nootropic and pretty beneficial. I've also seen people using nicotine for POTS, post-COVID long haul, just neuroinflammation. So I see that being really a cool like adjunct treatment, but it really comes down to I wouldn't recommend smoking a Marlboro Red. I'd probably get like a very clean nicotine lozenge if you're going to do something like that. But I use somewhere between 3 to 6 milligrams of nicotine every day, and I usually have that in the morning because I'm responding to emails and I like to be really sharp. So I really think it's a great productivity tool. I think the issue with all of those things that they're highly addictive. So I don't recommend it for people who, have addictive personalities. But if you can use it sparingly, I think that it's a cool thing you could do that has some health benefits, but it really, I think the devil's in the dosing with anything that we're doing. So figuring out, upper limits for people is probably best case scenario. Um, yeah.
Quick question, like going back to the zeolite, the client that's actually taking it, she apparently was like reading about it and she saw that like a spray or like drop form is more bioavailable for it. Not sure if you've heard of that or yeah, just wanted confirmation on that.
Yeah, so there's mixed reviews on that one. I know there's a company that I just bought from that's like a spray. Maybe a lot of you have had this pop up in your feeds for kids and doing all that. So I don't remember what company it was, but they have a new nano spray that's supposed to be not just because a lot of zeolites just go through the digestive tract, and this is supposed to go through more of the blood-brain barrier for nano sprays. But again, it's kind of like research your company and how much knowledge they're willing to give you in that site of the sourcing and how they're doing it. Because before I saw this company, a lot of the research that I was doing, they're saying a lot of the liquids are not that great. Get the powder. And I always use Zeo Health. That's the one that's worked best for me, and I still use it because I think it's the best. But I am going to try out the nano spray. Um, I was gonna do it for my nieces for doing heavy metals and parasite cleansing. So it's always easy for kids, right? Just spray something in their mouth. But the jury's still on that. But I think, yeah, nano sprays will reach more than through the digestive tract. And I think that's important too, because the heavy metals can sit anywhere in the body, not just in the digestive tract. So.
Do you see that often for children? Because I've seen in our private face group messaging just for the coaches, I've seen a couple times popping up for children. And do you see like changes maybe in your nieces like that potentially would want you to do some sort of cleanse for them? Or are you trying to be more proactive in that sense?
I think around the full moon, they get a little. little crazy. And it's not me looking into it. It's just a generalized, I think me and my mom both kind of see it. And so uh, there are some, a lot of really biting down the nails, teeth grinding. So there is some symptoms that could say like, hey, this could be parasitical. But I think also on the other side of it, it's just like, this is something we need to do. We need to teach them because it's just healthy to make sure you're cleansing your body, with everything that we're exposed to. So I think it's a little bit of both camps, honestly. Um, the last parasite cleanse we did, one kid looked great, the other one lost a lot of hair. So then it's very different body types, handling it very different with even a gentle cleanse. So that's something I'm trying to look out for too. But one had also had a round of antibiotics and had her it. So her system was more compromised, and I think that's why she lost more hair. She may be minerally deficient. So, yeah, it's kind of like trial by error in a safe way, if I can say it like that, obviously with kiddos, but yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I like the mineral aspect that you went to. I actually spoke with a potential client probably last week, maybe the week before, and I recommended hair mineral analysis for this individual um, in her 40s. Looking at labs, everything was low normal, low hormone production. And I think a lot of times looking at the baseline minerals in our body, because if we look at like hormonal, antioxidants, immune status, so much really plays in. Are we sufficient in X amount of minerals? Um, I think that looking at HMAs can be very helpful from hormone. But I'm curious, do you see that being impactful from a detox standpoint? Question for you, do you see potentially overload of potentially good minerals? Is that something you ever see with any clients or have suspicion if, someone outside of, maybe metals like iron, I see that sometimes being elevated, but do you ever see like overdoing iodine or selenium? Is that things that you would potentially look out for from a detox standpoint?
Well, I've definitely overdone it on iodine for sure. I've been there in that camp. So, like you said, Justin, dosing is in the poison. The poison is in the dosing. So, yes, there's people that I think I have seen one do overdo it on selenium, and she already was so in tune with her body. She's like, it's got to be that. And as soon as she took it out, she felt better. So yeah, you got to be careful with anything. And that's why I think making a journal, and I do this, just writing out, hey, I started these things. These are the symptoms I'm dealing with. This is how I feel now. Because if you're not paying attention to that, you really can miss like, oh, I have this new issue now, and you're not even connecting it to the supplements that you're taking. So I've become quite sensitive to what I'm putting in my body after did too much iodine. So now I'm very aware of that and much more hyper aware with clients too. Like this is something you want to keep track of and touch base with yourself about. But I think when it comes to detoxing, that is so depleting in nature that I find that people need to add back in more, especially for myself. I'm like, okay, I need to take a break and just replenish with more salt, more magnesium, more potassium, more desiccated liver, B vitamins, zinc, all those things.
Yeah, and that was going to be something I was going to talk about is like, my go-to minerals for most people. Probably magnesium. I tend to see that being depleted in most people. And if I'm looking at like traditional blood work, alkaline phosphatase is a good marker to look at for zinc and magnesium deficiencies. And it's always so interesting because I do so many lab reviews and I'll look through a questionnaire and it's like, they have a very high level job and they're very stressed and then they have kids and then they're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night and that most of the time kind of turns into deficiencies in specifically magnesium. And I would say the majority of us probably need to supplement it because stress is one of those big drivers that depletes it. Um, do you have any specifics outside of zinc and magnesium that you really like to hone in, or do you think it's that's too broad of a statement and everybody's going to be individualized?
You mean with other supplement, like other minerals? I
Minerals.
think a lot of people need more iodine, even just like a couple drops. I think B vitamins, desiccated liver. I love desiccated liver so much, unless you have too much iron, but so it's such a great multivitamin as far as nature goes, and it's just raw, real, tangible. Um, and I think what is it? Cod liver oil, vitamin A, vitamin D. I think those are pretty staple. So desiccated liver, cod liver oil, iodine. I don't really recommend selenium a lot, but I think people are deficient in it. But it's one of those that you want to be careful with because I think you can get too much too quickly. So maybe like 100 milligrams, something on the lower side, even not every day. Um, and a lot of salt. People need more salt. I think they're very scared of salt, but I feel so good with so much salt. So, and if you're stressed and your magnesium's depleted, you got a really stressful life. Your adrenals are stressed. Your adrenals need a lot of salt. So don't be scared of that.
That's a good point. I actually met with one of your clients, and she was
Mm.
in California, and we were talking about how much she exercises and sweats, and she's having issues finishing workouts and fatigued, and I was like, how much sodium? And she's like, I don't consume any sodium. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you don't salt anything? And, she's like, very lightly salt, almost all my meals. But when we look at salt, we have to replenish what we lose, and water is not enough of that. So I think climate plays a big role in that. How much you are sweating on a day-to-day basis. Where I live, if I walk outside for 5 minutes, I'm drenched because it's humid, it's 95 degrees. So I'm probably upwards to, 6, 7 grams of salt a day based off of I walk 10,000 steps. I train 5 days a week. I also have a really stressful life. It's a good life, but it's a stressful life. So I think getting that sodium is even from like a mental standpoint. If I go out and walk and I can be really fatigued, me being able to get some salt and some water when I get home, it kind of snaps me back and I'm less fatigued and I feel better. I think the other piece is like even carbohydrate absorption. You have to have sodium and glucose or sodium and water to move glucose through the digestive tract. So when I see clients having a hard time processing and digesting carbohydrates, it's like, well, if you don't have enough water, you don't have enough salt. Those things just kind of sit in the gut. So I think that's a good call out. And you don't need a Relight or LMNT, whatever the fancy electrolytes are. You could just use some sodium. I use a product called 40,000 volts. I really like that as well. Do any of the coaches have like a specific electrolyte or remedy they like to do?
I've been just doing like Himalayan sea salt, just keeping it simple. Just in some water with some lemon. And I mean, I used to do all the electrolytes, but it's got a lot of like citric acid in it, and I've got a whole bunch of gut stuff going on, and even for some that have, just like things going on, sensitivities. Like I had a client recently, she was using LMNT and it has, I think it's maltodextrin in it, and she's got a corn allergy. And when she took it out, she was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. So, I mean, again, you can sometimes split hairs with some of those things. Some people aren't as sensitive, but it's good to just kind of like look at the back of anything that you're putting in your body to see if you're sensitive to it or not.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of the electrolytes I think I have a couple boxes here at home that have citric acid as the first one. And once I really realized what it is, I'm like, what? This is no wonder why I don't feel that great when I drink this specific brand. So yeah, watch out for that citric acid. It's no bueno. It's no good.
I just thought of something, coconut water. I just
Mm.
started drinking coconut water because I started hot yoga again, which you sweat so much. You don't realize like how much like, you really need that electrolyte balance. And oh my gosh, I drank so much coconut water, so like it's just naturally hydrating. So that was good. I even made like a little cocktail out of it. I put some salt in there. I think I put some like matcha tea in there. I don't know, just trying to like play around with it. And it was great. It was so hydrating on a hot day after, sweating a lot. So yeah, definitely take a look at like what ingredients are in there, especially if you have sensitivities. I think it's always smart to just, to just question things.
I think that's a good point because most people here on this call have sensitivities. That's why they're here. It's like if there was nothing wrong, things would be status quo and they wouldn't be seeking further help. So I think that's where the nuance and things comes to be very important. And as a collective, as coaches, we've all kind of had our own health issues. So being able to navigate that with the client is AI is never going to be able to replace that. The intuitive nature and being able to work firsthand with people through things that you've experienced. I think that's great. I'm going to pivot real quick. We had a question here. Is it better to have vitamin D with K2 in it when taking D? I'm going to give that to one of the coaches if y'all would like to, and we can kind of throw around our thoughts with that.
I say yes, a strong yes.
Strong yes. It absorbs better.
I think that's the big thing I see with most people is like they're like, I'm taking 5,000 IUs and their vitamin D is like a 30 or it's below the normal range. And the K is going to help with absorption. The other thing I think is important is having it with some fat with your meal. I think a lot of times when we look at, say, we're just taking supplements because we've seen on Instagram, it looks cool to take all these supplements, but there's no timing or specificity with it. So we're slamming all these vitamins at different times of the day, and vitamin D is a circadian vitamin or hormone basically as well. So you want to take that in the morning. That's going to be kind of rhythmic with the sun. We should hopefully see a ray of sun in the morning a little bit. You shouldn't sit in your office all day. I think that vitamin D is serves its purpose best there. I always pair mine after I have breakfast. I like to have a little bit of fat to kind of keep me full as I get into my workload. But yeah, I would say that's a very good question. What about magnesium, coaches? Is there a time of day? And I know there's a lot of different magnesium, so I would love to hear y'all's input on maybe different types and then when you use them.
Love the magnesium topic. Magnesium glycinate is nice before bed. It's like your relaxation mineral. So that's nice. Or it could be a little bit before, like maybe like after dinner, before bed. It depends. And magnesium citrate, well, I don't like to recommend it all the time for constipation. It can be a nice, I would say, Band-Aid solution if you have someone that's having, constipation, it will draw water into the bowels. So I like that one at night too, because I feel like then you wake up and you can have a nice bowel movement in the morning, which is probably ideal. So those are kind of my two favorite magnesiums. I know there's a whole bunch of others that, there's broad spectrum. You can use like magnesium breakthrough that has like all of them. But sometimes some people just need the one like for sleep or for bowel issues, and sometimes that one doesn't have enough of that specific magnesium in it. It just depends.
That's a good call out. Yeah, I would say I'm a big mag glycinate guy. And I think it just depends on your digestion. So like when I recommend it, I may start as low as like 100 milligrams. I take like 600 milligrams of magnesium because I'm a bigger person and my demand's higher. So I also think like figuring out what you can tolerate from a digestive standpoint is big. Um, and kind of basing that off of demand. So if you're exercising and you're stressed, you may need quite a bit more magnesium. I'm in a camp of having it with food because it can upset your stomach. I don't have any issues with it, but I see some people needing it with dinner. And the glycinate, I also think of it almost like anxiolytic. It makes me really calm and kind of slows my mind down because I am by fault ADHD and I like to go all the time. So that's one of my things to kind of take the edge off, if you will. We had another question pop in here, and I like the supplement topic. Kim says, when I take the zinc carnosine that I recommended this, I get nauseated. Is that normal? I think it could be. When you look at zinc, the carnosine aspect of it should be very soothing to the digestive tract, but it may be a lot for you, Kim. So I usually recommend taking that fasted, but if it is kind of hurting your stomach, I would probably pair it with some food, maybe with your first meal. Coaches, if you have any input on that, I'd love to hear it. But that's usually what I recommend when your tummy's kind of sensitive. Uh, Zinc can be a little bit more not aggressive, but it can irritate the gut a bit.
Yeah, I went for a run the other morning and I took zinc right before my run and I was so nauseous. I thought I was going to lose my cookies, but I kept them down. But lesson learned, I have to eat zinc with food. So that's me too. I just get nauseated with it. No matter the form. I'm just like, oh, but so you're not alone. Eat with food.
And there's so many forms of zinc. What I really like the carnosine and um, for the reason from the digestive, basically helping soothe the GI lining, kind of help rebuild it. I find that very helpful. But I mean, there's so many different types of zinc. Um, that's just my preference. Um, hmm trying to think other minerals that I'm a really big advocate of. Maybe we'll look at adaptogens. I'm kind of on a roll here, so if anybody wants to interject and stop me. But I also really like adaptogens. If you're sitting on this call and you've met with me, we probably talked through things to support the adrenals. Um, Hold on. Okay, Kelsey, we'll answer your question, then we'll get into adaptogens. I have a question about creatine. What are your thoughts on higher dosage for increased cognitive function and brain health? Would an increase like that also increase potential bloating side effects that can occur with adding in creatine? Um, yes, I think there is some studies showing that, 10 to 15 grams of creatine can be beneficial from that cognitive standpoint. I think that creatine monohydrate can be uh, pretty tough on the gut for some people. There are different forms of creatine. Thorne makes one. Let me find this brand. Um, I want to see non-monohydrates, and I can drop it in here. Um, Unless anybody knows off the top of their head. But the monohydrate can be problematic. Let me see. Uh, Coaches, if you're going to recommend creatine for clients, is there a starting point you usually like to start at?
mean, I always start especially women, I feel like 2 grams. I know that sounds like so small, but I like to go two and then three and then maybe like five, and kind of just see, how they respond to it. Low and slow. I like it, just to, some people are more prone to bloating and, because it does put water into the muscle. So, I don't know. That's kind of how I like to do it.
Yes, Kelsey, it is zinc um, monochloride. That's the one you would want to look at from a potentially easier on the guts. I also see that, and I agree with you 100%, Lisa. The standard dosing for creatine is always 5 grams, but I like a little bit lower, especially if you have digestive issues. No one wants to start taking creatine and then gain 5 pounds of water and feel bloated. It's kind of counterproductive, I would say, for the majority of people. Um, Let's see. Kim says I have a very sensitive gut, but Legion creatine does not bother me. Yeah, I think it's just going to be very dependent on the individual. Um, Kind of pivoting into adaptogens and cortisol. I'm going to give a couple maybe nighttime remedies. And then coaches, I'm going to start with one and I'm going to pass it around. One of my favorite things is probably L-theanine. It's going to have benefits from an antioxidant standpoint. It's going to calm the mind. For me, it doesn't make me groggy. I'd be interested if anybody feels any different about that, but I personally handle L-theanine quite well. Is things like ashwagandha can make some people very lethargic when they wake up. So I'm going to start there. Uh, would be curious on what everybody else's go-to is from a uh, standpoint for calming herbs or adaptogens?
Well, I definitely had my moment with ashwagandha and holy basil. They helped me tremendously when I was severely hypothyroid and having a lot of anxiety. So that's what I used to help me get through like 2 or 3 months until I didn't need it anymore. And actually, I think my body was telling me I didn't shouldn't take it anymore because then I started to not feel good when I took it. So I think everybody's bodies and frequency are at different. Then I think that's why supplements work or don't work. And I don't know, maybe I'm a very sensitive doser, so I kind of know pretty quickly like when something doesn't work for an adaptogen standpoint. I either feel more anxiety or I'm like, oh, I can literally feel my body calming down. So I'd be curious to know if that's anyone else's experience with adaptogens.
I personally love ashwagandha, but I find it helps me a lot if I cycle on and off of it. And so that, yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is kind of an ambiguous thing to say, but also kind of depends on the type of stress and anxiety I'm having as to whether and I've learned that through trial and error through time as to whether like that's helpful or not. But I do like it, but I've had moments where I'm like, okay, I need to cycle off it. I can just tell, like, I'm like, oh, that's not the right thing. And kind of on the flip side of that, I love L-theanine, but for depends on what I'm using it for. Like I love it at night for that kind of calming, but I also like it in the daytime. It's good for focus in the daytime. So like early in the day, kind of depends on how I'm using it.
That's good. I like that. Um, I also think L-theanine has some room to be put in play for maybe someone who doesn't want to quit their coffee addiction yet, and it makes them really anxious. I think that kind of pairing those together, or if you're just an anxious person in the morning, and um, historically I've had issues with that just being so busy in the morning that it's hard for me to get my thoughts together. My heart rate may be up. That also may impair my digestion, so I don't want to eat anything because I'm anxious and nervous in the morning. I think L-theanine has a some place there. So I think it's a utility player, if I could call it something. You could really plug and play where you need it, kind of based off your response, because uh, the adrenals, they can be high in the morning or they could be low in the morning. And if your adrenal function and you're not making much cortisol in the morning and you're trying to take more adaptogens to lower your stress response in the morning, it can be very counterproductive. I've seen people use ashwagandha in the morning and just wind up feeling worse and more lethargic. So I think it just kind of depends. Last
I,
one, go
I want
ahead.
to say one other thing about ashwagandha, and this obviously isn't across the board. It depends on the person and the body. But I have had several people who've taken ashwagandha at night, and it has disrupted sleep or given really vivid dreams, and typically less so in the morning. So I'm a morning ashwagandha person if I'm cycled on.
Yeah, that's good feedback. I got two more I want to talk about. I really like rhodiola. You probably see me recommend rhodiola to a lot of people. And I think of rhodiola more of like a stress resilience adaptogen. So it doesn't really lower or raise cortisol. What I think about it more is maybe regulating stress response. And I compare that to you have a stressful event, you have a normal stress response and you're able to get over that hump quicker, or it's maybe not as impactful to that individual. I like it for adrenals being abnormally high in the morning or abnormally low in the morning. Usually dual dosing AM around lunchtime as well, kind of based off of feedback from the client. And then my last one is serine. There's choline and serine. Those are phospholipids. I really like that for a stressed individual, maybe who's exercising, because we have to remember exercise is a stressor. And after we train, we are going to have some cortisol dump from that exercise. So if you are immunocompromised, you have issues with adrenals, phospholipid serine can be quite helpful to just lower that stress response and help you get out of that like parasympathetic state you're in after you exercise. I'm sure we've all been there where you do a really hard exercise and you're just kind of shaky and you can't really calm down. I like that. I will use it myself if I do a leg day, because it's really hard to eat after you're so wound up, and your digestion's not going to be that efficient if we're really redlined with stress. So I like to use that to maybe calm my body down, give myself 30, 40 minutes, and then consume some food. That works best for me. I think the duration is going to be different on individuals. Did we miss any? I got a couple more questions if not.
I was gonna say like I don't know if we touched on it. We talked about the L-theanine, but the reishi and the cordyceps, like those nootropics. I'm a big fan of mushroom coffee. I feel like I talked about it already on this call. And so, yeah, I mean, personally speaking, when I was going through menopause and the brain fog was like real, it was really bad. Couldn't even get string sentences together. The mushroom coffee has the one that I have, L-theanine, reishi, cordyceps. I think there's a few others. The brain clarity was great. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I really like them. I like them because they all kind of play together, which is really nice. They do have like, I mean, you can get it also in like capsule form, like a supplement form, but I do feel like they're really useful. Like reishi is really good for like immune modulating. It's calming. It can support like sleep as well. It can help like with anxiety, insomnia. And then cordyceps is also it can also like boost your energy. Um, Adaptogens are really that special class where it's like if you have less energy, it brings it up, and if you have more, like more anxiety, like I think Justin was talking about that, like you wake up and you either have too much cortisol, which is like, oh my God, I'm anxious, or like, oh my God, I'm in burnout mode where I don't have enough. So adaptogens could be really helpful, because it kind of helps balance both of them. But it's definitely good to sometimes even Ashley was saying like cycling on and off, because I've had the same thing with ashwagandha where, I think it made me like a little bit anxious at night. So, it's not at all like one size fits all for everyone.
And that's what makes this so interesting, I think, is like one, becoming so self-aware of your own body. I think as a coaching group, we all probably could agree that that's one of our goals is to make you aware of the things you put in your body and how you feel. And then you will be able to auto-regulate based off of that. And that just comes with time. The more you work on these things. I know when I'm stressed and my digestion isn't good and I'm not feeling good, I have those days. When I was younger, I would just try to power through it and be like, oh, it's fine. I don't really feel any type of way. I'm just going to continue to empty my cup and push harder. As I've gotten older, I realize sometimes I need to pull back and kind of save or revamp my energy so I can push in another day because burnout is a real thing. And I think as American culture, we're taught to just burn ourselves out and burn the candle at both ends. And you can do that for a period of time, but at a certain point, your body does kind of go to shambles and it becomes difficult to even have basic processes happening. All right, we got several other questions here. So I'm going to start with Mandy because she was at the top. I take ashwagandha 2 times a day, 1 a.m., 1 p.m., and L-theanine at night. I might need to pay more attention to how I feel, but I've been taking them both for a while. Yeah, and I think that goes back to that self-awareness piece, Mandy, is see if it's helping you. I think a lot of times we just have the supplements and maybe we want to finish the bottle, so we just continue to dose them. But I would get a better idea if you really see that they're helping you. And there's just so much utility of being able to swap out different types of adaptogens. Let's see, Kim, when you go to a traditional doctor, do you disclose all the non-traditional treatments to them? I am hesitant to even I'm hesitant as even my PCP and GYN are not fans of HRT. You still want to let them know. Ultimately, it is your body. I would never withhold information from my doctor. I'm on testosterone. I have been for some time. My PCP knows. He also knows that I have an integrative clinic and I'm going to continue to use testosterone, but I like him to be aware of that. The things I don't share too much with my provider is probably my supplements. And Not that I don't want them to know, but I feel like more times than not, they don't care or they don't really know. They're not trained on herbs, Chinese medicine. So they're just going to kind of look at that list. And what I hear more times than not is like, there's not enough data on that to support that. That's helpful. You can take it if you want. I don't really know. Those are the types of responses I usually get. And, filling out a health history form and typing in 100 supplements to for someone not to care about. Me personally, I don't want to waste my time doing that. That's just my own thoughts. But from like a pharmaceutical standpoint, I would definitely let them know, because it is their job to manage your health. And just because they don't agree with you, if they don't want to see you, they do take your copay. So somebody else will take your copay and work with you. And you want to get a doctor who wants to collaborate with you. I think that's the big piece I think about is medicine is, um, doctors are humans. I've worked with lots of doctors. They don't have all the answers, and they're all practicing medicine. That means they all have their different thoughts and modalities around medication, and not everybody's going to see eye to eye. So, just my 2 cents on that. Kelsey, L-theanine paired with my coffee. Agreed, love it. Um, Mandy, my PCP is open to holistic treatment and knows and willing to do both. I made sure I picked a doctor that was willing to support me. That's a great, yeah. I think that's the big piece for sure. Okay, Lisa. Oh, you got the mushroom link in here already. Okay. Yeah, I like mushrooms. I do actually a lot of lion's mane. I rotate that in the morning. I like lion's mane, and then some days I do alpha GPC. Those are probably my favorite cognitive enhancers. If somebody may watch this in the future, if you're someone who's dependent on, Adderall or some sort of CNS stimulants, those drugs really lower your choline in your body. So most of us may be on the lower end of choline. Alpha GPC is acetylcholine. It helps with memory retention. There is limited studies supporting its role in helping with Alzheimer's. So it's naturally occurring. Choline's in eggs and other sources. So I think it can be a great addition as well. Um, yeah, this was a pretty cool uh, side topic. We always talk about hormones, but I also think that you can't ignore holistic treatments. I think a lot of times everybody's so focused on the pharmaceutical quick fix, and I really like a balance of both things. I think that there needs to be an integration of a holistic medicine and then pharmaceutical intervention when you need it. Not everybody needs it. Not everybody wants to do that, but I think um, you want to be able to integrate it when it's necessary. I got another question popping in here. I think it's Nancy. It says iPhone 6. Should I
Yep.
stop my BHRT before labs? Um, there's a couple things around that. I would say, Nancy, is um, s- it depends. Do you mind expanding on what types of hormones you're using currently?
Uh, I'm progesterone, testosterone.
Are you using an estradiol?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm listing them. They're all bioidentical.
Uh, what I would say is the things that can come abnormally high is testosterone. So if we're dosing that too close to labs, we may get a false reading with elevations of testosterone. What I
Okay.
see with estradiol, if your doctor's doing a good job and checking your FSH, um, you want to have a suppression of FSH when you're taking estradiol. That means your brain recognizes there's enough estradiol present in the body. So if you're postmenopausal, your estradiol or your FSH may be 50, 110. You taking that estradiol should suppress that follicle stimulating hormone, and that shows that you have enough. I was looking at my email last night. I had somebody send me some labs over asking about their HRT. They CC'd one of our uh, partners through First Optimal, and she was asking about her labs. And my recommendation for that individual is look at your FSH and how low your estradiol is. You may need to go up on that, but based off of your symptoms. So this individual, I believe, has some digestive issues. So we want to be able to make sure that we're able to process and clean out those estrogens. So side tangent there, that's going to play a big role before you increase the dose. And it's also going to be off of symptoms. So if you are uh, having improvements in those hot flashes, the insomnia, maybe vaginal dryness, brain fog's going away, you may be in okay place, but titrating up at some point because we want to think about the neuro protection, the bone protection, the cardiovascular protection. Um, so, last is progesterone, Nancy, is what I see more times than not. It's really hard to get a super high reading of progesterone on blood serum. Um, I really think that it's going to be based off of symptoms with that. So, if you're doing I don't know, some people take up to 400 milligrams. Do you feel like it is helping you sleep? Do you feel like it's helping maybe from an inflammation standpoint? Is it calming you down? Because you may not always see that apples to apples on blood work. But really going off of symptoms. But if you want to know exactly how well your body's absorbing that, Dutch testing, they actually will show you a oral progesterone range. So if you're on 100 milligrams, they'll put you in a range and they'll show you metabolite. So that's a better way to test it. Um, let's see. Kim, I think that your question here, you did not stop yours. Really what I would be curious on is if your testosterone's elevated, we'll manage it. We'll look at that from a symptom standpoint. Um, you want to stay on your estradiol and progesterone though. And Nancy here, my first blood test, my blood test will be my first run with Davey. Yeah, it'll be really good to look at that. Um, my thoughts around compounded creams. When you're trying to put three creams in one, I feel like a lot of times it's hard to get the appropriate absorption. So you can only hold so much medication, like per click or per gram. And it is cheaper to get a three-in-one estrogen, progesterone, testosterone topical. But I see a lot of women just having a hard time absorbing topical progesterone or topical estradiol. So you add two more drugs on top of that, you may not be getting enough. So if you're tired all the time, it most definitely could be around sex hormones, but we also have to include that adrenal piece, and that's why we do such extensive lab testing because we want to make sure we're chasing the right avenue and not just over prescribing medications or shooting in the dark. Really, the test, don't guess, getting as much information as you can is going to serve you long term of being able to track that data. Yes, Kim, I would recommend keeping on your hormones with your Dutch test. At the bottom of the Dutch test, they're going to have a form and it's going to have you fill in all the information of your bioidentical hormones. As you read the instructions with that, because helped people with a ton of these, it'll have you skip your nighttime progesterone sample. So you will pee on the strip, finish that sample, then take your progesterone. But outside of that, you're going to want to keep your other baseline hormones in. If you're taking DHEA, I believe they want you to discontinue that. And then weird things, you can only have 40 ounces of water for good reason. We want accurate readings. And then no avocado, no beans, and no banana, because that can throw off your organic acids test. I think those are the big pieces you want to look at with that Dutch test. But really reading through those instructions, it's an expensive test, so you want to make sure you're as accurate as you can be. We do want to see you on your bioidentical estradiol and testosterone because we want to know how it's metabolizing in your body and are you able to get those phase one and phase two metabolites moving. So very good question.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Justin, I have a quick question about starting testosterone shots and feeling like that immediate bloating. Because one person is having that. Do you have some initial feedback on how to reduce that as you're trying to transition, or you just kind of hold out and wait out?
I probably wouldn't hold out. So I always think of testosterone as a prohormone to estradiol through aromatase. that individual may be really sensitive to estrogen. So if she is on, they'll usually put it in units. So 5 units twice a week is maybe the standard dosing for that. It could be a little less. If you're bloating from that, I would maybe go down to a single shot a week. Give that a week or two and let that see. But it may be too much conversion into estradiol. The other piece that I think a lot about is this person inflamed and are they having any issues with the blood pressure? Blood pressure can cause water retention as well. Your kidneys are going to be involved in that and fluid retention. So if this individual's BP is up from what it normally is, that could be another factor for sure.
Okay, she also has started a GI gut protocol too. They kind of synergistically came very close to each other. So we were wondering like which is it? The gut protocol, killing off some stuff, and having bloating as a side effect, or a little bit of both. Actually, no, she had it right after she started testosterone. So maybe I should have her connect with you on
Yeah,
that.
you could have her reach out to me. The other thing I would say is when we look at like the injectable testosterone, it really has about a 6 week time of building up. So we have to build half-lives. So it could be that she's really sensitive to that and she's experienced that because I'm not going to discount that and say it's not true because I think
Hmm.
anything's possible.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it could be GI. So yeah, maybe just reducing dosing until things level out, especially with the GI piece there. That just makes stuff so tricky for sure.
Okay, I will have her reach out to you then. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely.
I know we're nearing the end. I just wanted to add in just because I went through something similar with the BHRT. So I started off with twice a week. Just Charlotte, I don't know if it helps you, but I started out with twice a week, 5 units twice a week, and we had to back off really quickly because I was having a lot of weird symptoms. Yeah, water retention was one, and then I mean I was having some cramping, so we went to like 5 units once a week. And then we went, I think, like 4 weeks. And then I finally just increased my testosterone, but we didn't increase the estrogen. So, I mean, I think exactly what Justin is saying, it really, is good to start slower, but obviously she's got some gut stuff going on too. But yeah, just keeping close and making sure that, she's detoxing, obviously you're into all those detoxing, but make sure that she's detoxing too. It's just really important to have that, as well.
No, that's good feedback, and I love that you have the firsthand experience with that. So, because again, I can say it all I want, but everybody's going to relate to you because you're literally doing it. So, I appreciate that.
Yeah, let her know, like, I'm feeling so great right now. Like, words cannot describe. So just let her know, there's hope and light at the end of the tunnel. It's just finding that, delicate balance.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that. Everyone's real account experience is always super valuable. You can't buy that.
100%.
Thank you, everybody. This was an awesome call. I hope you all have a great day and same time, same place next week. Thank you.
Thank you.